In the heart of France, large, centuries-old trees watch over a mysterious kingdom. Their boughs recall the crown of the Lord who roams the undergrowth. He has ruled this forest for 5 years. He knows every inch of it, every smell, all the delights, and all the dangers. In this bittersweet wilderness, knowledge is a weapon, and it is the experience gained over the years that took him to the summit. But today, the king has been overthrown. Behind him, his rival roars out his victory cry. Now, in the twilight of his life, it is time for the old stag to disappear. His reign has come to an end. The king has played his part in the life of the forest, the scene of a never-ending passing down of knowledge. His knowledge remains deeply engraved in his impressive antlers, a testament to his longevity. Year after year, from his first steps to his first duels, from frightening encounters to glorious victories, the monarch has left his mark on the forest. This story begins 12 years earlier, when this young female with her swollen belly moves away from her herd in search of privacy. She is about to give birth to the young calf she has been carrying for almost 8 months. Safe and warm, the young has already learned to recognize the smells that will influence his feeding preferences until adulthood. For a few weeks now, he has been listening to the outside world, sensing his mother's sounds and smells. The beating of her heart, her emotions. But for several minutes, violent contractions have been shaking the hind's belly. A profound upheaval is underway. Propelled into life, the young calf seems frail and defenseless. The following moments are decisive. First of all, the mother does her best to eliminate any sight or smell of the happy event that has just occurred. Indeed, the best way to escape a predator is, quite simply, to be undetectable. Once cleaned, the newborn's coat becomes completely odorless. In just a few minutes, the young calf is able to stand up on its feet. Or nearly. With his mother's encouragement, he learns to control his muscles, to find his balance. He gradually begins to master this already perfectly formed body. Starving after this demanding experience, he finds comfort in the hind's teats. This incredibly rich milk will ensure his rapid growth. It is in the intimacy of these moments that the hind and the calf forge an unbreakable bond. Now that he is full, the little prince begins to contemplate what his kingdom will be like. After a few hours, the transformation is striking. The young calf starts testing his body's abilities. For deer, the race for survival begins at birth. Soon, his natural curiosity leads him to explore the surroundings, while his exhausted mother seems more interested in the soft grass. The calf discovers the surrounding undergrowth, analyzes the smell of a bunch of nettles, without suspecting that in the heart of the vegetation, another mother does not look kindly on this intrusion. In this small patch of nature, the little family is not alone, and the slightest encounter could be a threat. After the initial fright, the little prince finally meets his fellow creatures who come to join him. Shortly after giving birth, related hinds frequently gather with their newborns. This allows them to share the supervision of the young and minimize the risks. Within a few days, the calves are strong enough to follow the adults on longer journeys and continue their learning. In their footsteps, they discover their territory and learn how to make the most of the different environments within it. Whether it's a meadow, a forest, or a pond, each environment has its own characteristics and provides for a particular requirement. In this early summertime, the temperatures doubtless make a swim feel pleasant. But what motivates the hinds above all is the promise of a very specific feast. Water lily stems. This particularly rich plant allows the females to rapidly replenish their mineral stocks, which have been severely depleted by the pregnancy. This enables them to regain their peak health. For their part, the young start getting used to the liquid element and meeting its inhabitants. In mammals, learning the behaviors that will be essential to their survival involves socialization, observation, and curiosity. This seemingly carefree attitude depends on an invisible communication between the doe and her young. The tear duct, a small gland located at the base of the eye, secretes a smell which is unique to the young animal. As long as the adult can smell it, She knows everything is fine. In this way, each day brings its share of experiences and discoveries that enable the little prince to develop his knowledge of life. Of course, rest is an important activity in its own right, which contributes to the development of the young animal. But in the wild, when you are a prey, you sleep with one eye open. An unknown presence, and the calf freezes, all his senses on the alert. The little deer relies on his cloak of invisibility. He also discreetly closes his tear duct. This olfactory Ariadne's thread, which connected him to his mother, is broken. The signal is lost. Every muscle in his body is tense. He is ready to spring. But for the calf, escape would be a last resort. Alerted, the hind arrives to observe the scene from a distance. In order not to reveal her calf's presence unnecessarily, she will only intervene if it is absolutely necessary. The herd of boar is eventually carried away by the family's search for food. Reassured, the mother entrusts the stars to watch over her calf until dawn. As the days go by and the forest awakens, the hind and her calf take advantage of the caress the first raise to feed. The calf has developed nicely on his mother's milk. It is time for him to diversify his diet. Following in his mother's footsteps, he continues to learn by imitation how to select the most nutritious young shoots and tender leaves. Suddenly, the duo detects a ghostly presence. The hind recognizes the big stag and returns to her concerns. Fascinated, the calf decides to take a closer look. This is the first time the little prince meets the king of the forest. Does the young deer understand at this moment that he is facing what he himself will eventually become? This magnificent animal might be his father. One day, he too will wear this splendid crown, which will symbolize his status in deer society. Outside the breeding season, males and females live separate lives, and the hinds are the only ones responsible for raising the young. And so it is to his mother that he returns to continue learning about life. The drop in temperature heralds the end of summer. It is at this time of year that the soul of the forest awakens and exhales its deep, muted, guttural vibration into the damp air. For the first time, the young deer hears the love song of his species, the roar of the large males. Bewitched, his mother appears irresistibly attracted by the virility of this call. He's here, close by. He comes to meet them. The king welcomes them to his breeding ground. Many hinds with this year's young are gathered around him. They have regrouped under the protection of his crown. The whiffs of testosterone mingle with the scent of the females on heat, which exhilarate the males. Behind the veil of mist, the survival of the species plays out discreetly. Unaware of the stakes preoccupying the adults, the young stag, who is now clearly a male, as evidenced by the budding lumps on the top of his head, prefers to join the young his own age. Carried away by the excitement around them, they mimic some of the elders' activities. In this way, they develop the behaviors that will enable them to evolve within deer society. What is only a game today for the young male will become a much more serious matter when he comes of age. After this amorous interlude, the males have gone their own way, while the females and their young have remained in the herd for the whole winter. The prince and his mother will live for a few weeks in this matriarchal community. Now the first migrants are back, and their song signals the arrival of the summer season. In the bellies of the hinds, a new generation is about to show the tip of its muzzle. The young deer makes the most of his mother's last attention. Soon, he will have to give up his place. The herd of hinds is governed by well-established social rules. A discrete hierarchy has been established between the females. One of the elders takes on the dominant role, and it is she who leads the little group and sets the pace for the day. Everyone knows their status, and it usually only takes an attitude or slight movement for everyone to remember their rank. In the herd, there is always a hind on the lookout, head up, attentive to the surroundings. The old leader often ensures this watch, and it is she again today who has detected a characteristic and threatening sound. When she raises her head, the rest of the herd immediately follows suit, a body that imperceptibly tenses up. And that's the signal. At birth, deer are not afraid of humans. It is through contact with their fellow creatures that they learn to be wary of the strange biped. One more year and he will have etched this threat deep into his mind. The young prince is no longer a calf. Now 2 years old, he has become a brocket. Sharp spikes rise from the top of his head. His mother and the herd have taught him what he needed to know to survive. The social rules, whom to run from, when to stand up for himself. But the path to the throne is still long, and he cannot get there alone. So when the clan appears that morning, the young stag knows it is time to leave the comfort of home, to continue his apprenticeship with the big males. In order to join this antlered group, the young male will first have to gain acceptance. Under his mother's watchful eye, he turns away from the females and gradually moves forward, not rushing things, observing the reactions to his presence. As in the herd, a precise hierarchy dictates the rules of the clan. In the background, he takes the time to identify the different members of the group. He immediately recognizes the king, proudly displaying his 16 points. The largest stag is a peaceful animal, confident in his unquestioned authority. The two handsome males crossing antlers are of similar strength. This balance regularly leads them to confront each other in order to assess their relative dominance. Behind them, an old animal observes these power struggles from a distance. He is no longer of an age to impose himself. All around, other younger males know that their time has not yet come. It is by them that he must first be accepted, at the very bottom of the hierarchy. He cautiously approaches to blend in with the group. Then, on the king's orders, they all return to the cover of the forest towards their rest area. A new squire follows in their wake. The first warm weather heralds a pivotal period in the life of the clan. And on this March morning, a wind of madness suddenly blows over the deer. Much jousting and chasing. They seem to have lost their minds. And for good reason. The same as every year in this season, the deer are removing their headdress to renew their devitalized and blunted antlers. For the brocket, this is a discovery. It is the first time he has observed this phenomenon. Suddenly relieved of a weight of over 4 kilograms, one of the clan members is in a very uncomfortable position. The imbalance is obvious, but the disruption is also social. Indeed, dominant males are the first to lose their antlers. Thus disarmed, they are suddenly faced with challenges from their still well-equipped subordinates. At all levels, the hierarchy of the group is questioned. The king is no longer feared nor respected. He prefers to stand aside and wait patiently for things to settle down. However, he has to accept that there are those who yearn to claim his crown. But he knows that the illusion will only last for a short time. Within a few days, all of them will be completely bare. From the king down to the young Brocket. Very quickly, the scars heal and everyone slots back into their place in the clan, as if nothing had happened. The arrival of spring makes everything bud, from the branches of the trees to the heads of the stags. In the pedicle lies the most extraordinary bone production factory in the animal world. This is capable of producing more than 1 centimeter of bone, velvet, and blood vessels every day. To ensure this exceptional growth, the animal draws the necessary mineral salts directly from the core of its skeleton. Like his mother before him, the young deer feels that to compensate for this general demineralization, he must favor a particular diet, even if it means taking a few risks. Interestingly, the stag's headdress has a body memory.
For instance, an animal that has damaged one of its limbs in the previous year is likely to develop atrophied or twisted antlers thereafter,
which in turn influences his position within the clan. Generally speaking, more than age, it is the animal's genes and overall health which determine the shape and number of points in the stag's crown. If all goes well, it becomes more extensive every year. 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. Within a few years, the prince has become one of the most handsome males in the clan. While antlers are very practical for scratching, or occasionally allowing the animal to knock down its food, they are above all a strong sexual signal to its fellow animals. With the first glance, a male assesses the strength of his rival. But above all, in a few weeks, the females will perceive a finely antlered individual as a fit and vigorous animal, the perfect sire to conceive offspring built to survive. At the end of August, strange garlands decorate the lower branches of the forest. The stag's antlers have finished growing and have hardened. Their vascularity has ceased, and the velvet covering them is drying out. It is time for the prince to get rid of this packaging and reveal his crown in plain sight. The signs are clear. Summer is ending. The bonds between the males are wearing thinner. It will soon be every man for himself. At last, the young stag feels capable of playing his part in the symphony of the forest. All around him, the powerful song of his competitors rises up between the trees. Some of them are already in place. Before he enters the stage, he must first put on his smartest outfit. The trenches, these natural pools of mud, are a must. The animal makes himself up to look more imposing, since for these ladies, appearance counts and virility must be emphasized. Crown, color, posture, nothing is left to chance. Warm up the voice.
Overwhelmed by his hormones, he regularly smears himself with urine and semen.
This delicate, odorous touch responds to the smell of the hinds and helps them to go on heat. It is time. The animal launches himself for his grand premiere towards the hoarse roar of a competitor. From the sound, he recognizes the king. It's going to be a tough encounter, but he is more determined than ever. The two soloists begin a score that has been fashioned by thousands of years of evolution. Every detail is crucial to convince the opponent of his superiority. Suddenly, the king emerges a few meters in front of him. It is no longer time for singing. The prince charges with all the ardor and energy of his age. An old hand, the king uses the elements of the scenery to try to force an error from his young rival. Powerless in the face of such determination, the king finally abdicates. Exhausted, the new lord announces the advent of his reign to the entire forest. The fallen king can only watch helplessly as the hinds succumb to the charms of his successor. Along with the crown come responsibilities. Indeed, it is up to the new king to take on his new role, to perpetuate the species. It is no small task. Under the eyes of his envious rivals, the king makes busy keeping the females under his control and impregnating them. He sometimes reproduces to the point of exhaustion. When fatigue hits, the hinds do everything they can to encourage the stag. They are only fertile for 1 day a year. Therefore, they cannot afford to wait until tomorrow to conceive the coming year's calf. If the king should fail, they might sometimes be forced into a discreet appeal to an opportunistic lover. As the first leaves fall, the stag's ardors fade into the forest. The hinds go off their own way, and a new life begins to flourish in the warmth of their bellies. All around, the fauna and flora are getting ready to face the hardships of winter. The stags emerge from the breeding season, exhausted and thinner. They have no reserves left in the face of the impending cold season. The tenderness of the spring grass is just a distant memory. The males have come to their senses and are rebuilding the invisible links that united them. The clan has reformed around its new monarch. Only the fallen king, sucked into the forest after his defeat, has not returned from the rut. Maybe he is still out there, somewhere, among the elderly trees. Every animal has to dig deep within itself to cope with the frosty caress of winter. Look for anything that might be left on the ground. Forage for a few calories covered by the snow. This is no longer a time for extravagance, but rather for economy. The king has considerably reduced his metabolism. Faced with less demands, his belly has lost a quarter of its volume and his heart beats half as fast. Thanks to a complex vascular system, he reduces the irrigation to his limbs and epidermis, which he allows to cool down in order to concentrate his body heat within his vital organs. This strategy seems to place the deer in a form of lethargy, which allows him to float through the winter. Everywhere, the forest is marred by scars. The stag's kingdom is being sculpted by a foreign hand. This natural habitat is also a farm of sorts. For centuries, man has been growing wood here for his own needs. As a result of his repeated logging, woodlands are becoming poorer and more fragmented. Their capacity to support wildlife is diminishing, and deer no longer have an assured place. This majestic animal is not in control of its domain. It is merely tolerated within it. However, if man wishes to continue exploiting the forest, he needs it to regenerate, and it is in his interest to take ecosystems into account. To do this, he must ensure that large seed trees are allowed to prepare the next generation. Of course, the timescale of the forest is not the same as that of human beings. These young shoots will take a century or two to regenerate this plot and allow it once again to become the home to all of its original biodiversity. Given the opportunity, nature shows resilience and regains its place. Within the entanglement of food chains, deer have an impact on the environment. An essential natural link is missing, a large predator against this imposing herbivore which is likely to proliferate. Antler on wood, today's deer seem to enjoy an almost carnal relationship with their environment. Yet thousands of years ago, they preferred open spaces where their large size and crowned heads could flourish unhindered. But man has gradually appropriated the plains, and the forest has become their final refuge. Unfortunately, the vegetation of the forest no longer covers all the deer's dietary needs. They have to find certain supplements elsewhere. That is why, when man closes one eye, the king and his subjects come out into the open. The Great Plains, where their ancestors once flourished, have now been replaced by cultivated fields. Corn, wheat, peas, which provide rich and varied feeding for the animals. Too high a concentration of deer would damage the ecological and financial balance of the forest and the surrounding crops. In the absence of large carnivores, man alone at the top of the food chain is able to prevent the proliferation of the animals. Built for flight, and with his senses constantly on the alert, the king hears the clamor of the approaching dogs from a great distance. Today, he is the prey. The barking reawakens an ancestral fear. Every year, the howling of this strange pack invades the forest. Every year, he sees his life put at stake in a game where battle takes the form of escape. The king knows his territory perfectly and veers off abruptly into a small stream. Behind him, the dogs bark in frustration, looking for a clue, but the water has covered his tracks. The sun dropping on the horizon calls the end of the game. These chases test him even further with every year that passes. Exhausted by a whirlwind of emotions, he does not emerge unscathed from these harrowing experiences. In the early morning, the Lord has returned to his breeding ground. He begins a recital that still sounds as true to the ears of the hinds. The herd quickly reforms around the big male. After all these years of domination, the aging king is aware that behind the edge of the clearing, attentive eyes are watching him. They are looking out for the slightest signs of carelessness from him to attempt something. The king senses that he no longer frightens them. From experience, he knows that a show of strength is the only response before his opponents. He runs in all directions to chase off the impertinent ones and tries to gather the hinds, which scatter in the face of such excitement. There is no doubt that the old animal is still vigorous enough to defeat these pretenders. But a male unknown to the clan makes his appearance. It is obvious that he has not come simply to make an appearance. And the hinds make no mistake. The king will have no choice but to put his crown on the line in a merciless battle. The two individuals weigh each other up, and then the battle is on. The king weakens. He becomes less and less steady on his hooves. He has to back off. In a final charge, his opponent definitively gets the upper hand. This time, the Lord has met an opponent stronger than him. He has to relinquish his throne. The fight did not go well. It is the end of an era. Usually the opponent's antlers lock together to avoid fatal injuries. But in the heat of the confrontation, his opponent took advantage of a momentary loss of balance to strike him a deadly blow. Fatally wounded, but buoyed by his dignity, the fallen monarch tries to return to the forest that has sheltered him all these years. It was in the light of this undergrowth that he reigned. Now that his strength has left him, he is about to become a ghost among the shadows and merge with the soul of the forest. Before darkness covers the body with its shroud, life pays a last tribute to this ordinary king of a kingdom that no longer belongs to him. After him, his descendants will in turn attempt, until their dying breath, to perpetuate the deep vibration of this primitive nature, so that it continues to resound for all time.